and welcome to this week's episode. We have a special treat for you. We are always interviewing other people and talking to each other about our best topics. And this week we've decided, heck, why don't we interview each other? So this episode is all about my partner in podcasting, Christie Palermo. Make sure to listen. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Happy, Healthy, and Skeptical. And today we have a really fun conversation going. And we realized in talking that we interview other people and we've actually never interviewed ourselves to share with the listeners a little bit about who we are, why we started this podcast, where we get these crazy opinions. And we wanted to be able to talk a little bit about ourselves and share why we wanted to bring Happy, Healthy, and Skeptical to you guys. So I have the privilege of interviewing one partner of our partner podcast, and that is Christie Palermo. So we wanted to start this conversation. I want to give my personal intro of Christie because hers is different, and it's always nice to hear what someone else has to say about you. I think sometimes we're surprised. And Christie and I, if you've listened to this show before, then you're aware that we have known each other for quite a long time. If you've never listened before and this is your first time, well, first of all, welcome. And second, Christie and I have known each other since adolescence. I am not quite sure when we first met each other, but my memory is like 10, 11 years old. Probably it could have been earlier. We grew up in the same small town in Rhode Island. You have to, I guess at some point we have to give Barville a shout out because we do both come from there. And that's where we grew up. And we grew up pretty close, especially through high school. And you always have this memory of people that you grew up close to, of, what they look like. It's so funny. She actually told me the other day that she was gonna cut her hair short, and I was like, "That's actually how I always picture you." And I think we do that for a lot of people in our lives. There's one point in our lives where that form of them gets solidified, and that's how we think about them, whether or not they've grown into a different person. We just think of them that way. And the other thing outside of her haircut that I always remember about Christie is that she always has a smile on her face. However, she's not fake. It's not a fake smile. It's a genuine smile. And I think that really sets her apart from most people because most of the time, not to talk about myself, there's not any kind of smile on my face. It's not intentional, it just happens that way. So it always reminds me that there is a bright side to so many things. Yes, life can be hard, but there's always that silver lining that I truly think she looks for. And the other thing is she never says a negative thing about a person. She might say something that's truthful and that might be hard to hear, but she never says a negative thing. And I think so much of who she is brought to these conversations. So I'm excited for her to get to talk about herself a little bit. And I wanted to ask her, how would you want to be introduced, Christy?
Well, thanks, Jen. It's so sweet. I know we've known each other forever, so it's just funny to hear what somebody else sees of you or thinks of you.
Yeah.
We've never actually talked about each other in that way, so it's just funny to be on the receiving end of starting one of these podcasts. So as everybody always seems to do, everybody gets a little fidgety and like, oh, thanks, when other people say
Like,
nice
oh,
nice
shucks.
things. Oh, but thank you. I know we go so far back. It takes me back to, I think of middle school with you when I don't remember exactly the first time or anything, but just around middle school time. So early stage in life where you're really coming into your own, developing, finding your true friends and going through some adolescence together, which is some major things, as we all know.
Yeah,
And so it's awesome that we've been able to come back around and now have an adult friendship too,
for sure.
with such a past behind us, and obviously growing up in the same town. So yeah, I mean, it's cool, I guess, to share some of my stuff. It's funny you say not talking, saying negative things about people, because I mean, we don't know how we ever come across to other people, but that's something I literally always say about my mom, is that my mom is one of those people that I've never heard her say something negative about anybody else ever.
That's true.
And
And having known you and your mom is truly one of the sweetest people I have ever met. And she does exactly the same thing, and she's the kind of person even on social media, if people follow me, if you ever see her name Jana, she is usually putting flowers or unicorns or smiley faces. She's, like, one of my biggest cheerleaders, honestly. I'm like, "Yeah, Nana Jana." I'm like, she's on there supporting all of your friends, which I think directly correlates to the type of person that you've become as an adult.
Yes, so Nana Jana, oh, she's just a sweet soul. So she's a big part, obviously, of my life, being my mom. And so I always think of her when it comes to anything niceness and spreading cheer around. She's
Yeah,
like
she
the
definitely
happy
spreads
elf
cheer. She
forever.
is. Whenever I have a notification, I'm like, "Yes, that's the pick me up I needed."
Yes, exactly.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so I mean, I grew up in a small town. For people who are listening, grew up in a small town and started a big part of my youth was I started dancing since I was when I was 4 years old. And as I got a little bit older, I started to get more heavily into it. And so dance was just everything as I grew up. And I was painfully shy. That's not something I talk about much either, but painfully shy as a kid. Like I very much think of myself as like whoever was my close friend at the time as a young kid, very much being in their shadow and just always being the silent person and observing, not really trusting my own thoughts. I don't think I really had my own thoughts that I can remember until being older, because I didn't like to speak up. And I feel like for me, dance was a big part of an outlet that I learned to trust people in a close proximity there, and be myself and be silly and, laying down with my head on the floor and just being. I remember that being a silly thing I used to do for some reason, and finding that silly side of myself and being able to see that that could be let out too,
Mhm.
and that she had a voice too. And so then as I grew into adolescence and then high school and being able to find my own voice, I feel like dance was so important in that aspect. And it's funny to like reflect on that and talk about it because it's not
Yeah.
something I think about and talk about very often.
Well, and I think for
um
me, what I hear you say is so what's so funny, and I guess we've never maybe made this connection and maybe have, is my mom forced me into dance at that not forced, like it wasn't against my will, but I was put into dance because I was so attached and shy at that time is my mom wanted me to kind of, break out of that uncomfortable shell where like I didn't want to speak to anyone unless you were my mother or my father. Like, I didn't want to be there, I didn't wanna be by myself, so as you're saying that, I was like, I can highly relate to that, and for anyone listening, if they have kids that are also like that, first of all, that's okay if that's their personality, but if you're trying to find something where they might be comfortable, I highly recommend seeing if they're
mhm,
comfortable performing, and not maybe for
mhm.
other people, even just for themselves, but having that dance
Right.
outlet.
Because I feel like it brings so much confidence too as you learn. I guess it's with anything and getting kids involved in something they enjoy,
Mhm,
because as they start learning something new, it develops this new sense of confidence, which is so cool to see.
mhm.
And two things on that. First of all, I never knew that about you, that you were shy.
Oh, yeah.
And knowing you now, I would never know that you had a shy bone in your
Uh-huh,
body.
uh-huh.
But funny, I also have memories for anybody listening of us. Jen and I used to choreograph for our friends. We would do big group talent show numbers for our friends in in high school. So Jen and I would split the choreography, and so it's just fun moments of that.
Funny.
Of course, going to see her dance,
You
but
need to make
so
sure
we
you
used
have some Michael Jackson choreographs in your life, some Janet
and Hey
Jackson,
Mickey.
some Hey Mickey. I mean, those were the good old days.
Those were. So I just have such great memories of dance with Jen.
Mhm.
So it's just cool to see how you got into it
Yeah.
too.
Well, I think what's
But
interesting, not to cut you off, but what you had said about being shy is you're also a middle child, a middle
mm,
child of girls. Do you think that affected anything as a kid?
hmm. Probably, I mean, I'm sure it does. I always say I became a performer because I'm a middle child. I needed to like, hello,
Pay attention to me.
pay attention to me. But I think I just as I grew to into dance, and I was never the best one for a long time. I was always just kind of okay at it, but I really loved learning about what I could do and like how fun it was. And I remember being young and realizing how much I loved to be on stage and like smiling huge even when I was super little, and loving being on stage. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep going with this. And I ended up going to college for it and performing professionally, for anybody that doesn't know much of my story. But I forgot your question now. But oh, being a middle child.
Being a middle child.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that plays a part too. Is just, I mean, my sisters are both wonderful, wonderful. They were, as girls, but now women in themselves, and just two people that I look up to and have done such awesome things with their careers and their lives. But I don't think I was ever like, and I know this is not what you were suggesting, but I don't think I was ever like, what's the word I'm looking for? Mm, like I was never in their shadow, like they were,
Neglected or yeah.
yeah, or anything, like silenced in
Yeah.
that way. It was just, I was just a shy kid. I just didn't want to talk to anybody. Um, it's just that was
I
it.
think you used the right word, right? Things like that build your confidence and that self-confidence. Some people can look at a lot of negative and say, dancers have so much body shame, but if you're able to get with the right mentor and the right teacher that will instill in you, like you said, you didn't have to be the best and you still had an amazing performance career. It's this idea of building confidence and self-worth in yourself and finding the thing. Dance might be for someone and not for someone else. So finding the one thing that, like, when you do it, that's your light, that's your power, and you feel joy, like, it energizes you, not something that's extremely draining in more ways than one.
Right, and I think a big part of it too is the discipline, which I think that can go for any sport or martial arts or whatever it is that, or even an adult. I keep saying kids, but even as an adult starting to try something new.
Mhm,
But as a kid, I liked the discipline of it, and I liked the structure, and I do remember too that I think I can attribute a lot of my success in a career in dance to the teacher that I had growing up. Was so encouraging and supportive that even when I was young and just starting to get more into it, and her always suggesting like, why don't you try this class? Why don't you try that class? And just always encouraging more from me,
mhm.
that as the personality that I was, that was so, um, I'm trying to think of a good word for that too. Impressionable. I was so impressionable that it's like, oh, well, this person sees something, so I want to try. I want to go do it and show that I can do it. And that sparked something inside me as a young kid to go for more. And that carried me uh, throughout my whole life, so I had that person that was always encouraging to go for the next thing, go for the next thing. Okay, now join competition team. Now let's do some competition dances. Now let's go compete. Now let's,
Yeah.
and that's not for everybody, but that was something that really spoke to me and called to me as a kid, and now is such wonderful memories that I adored it. And so before, when I say I had something else to add on to that too, is right now we just started our two of our kids, or actually, sorry, all three. Saying two, but all three of them just started in swim lessons. And it's been so cool to see. They just do 10 minutes a day. And we live in Florida, so everybody's around water all the time. So we wanted to get them involved in this. And so it's for 6 weeks. And they just completed their first week. And by Friday, like what they could learn just in 10 minutes a day.
Mhm.
And seeing just that confidence, even if there's some that are not loving it, but that they're learning it anyway, even through the fear, even through the
Mhm.
doubt, and then come Friday being like, oh, well, what did you learn? And then them showing us and being like, I can do this and I can do this, and arms over their head, and they jump in, and then floating, and seeing that kind of confidence already in 1 week of a lesson. So it doesn't, I don't know that it matters what the thing is,
Yeah.
but just being that they can learn something new, even when, and I start to tell them, like, a lot of times our heads are going to tell us we can't do something, and we can prove ourselves wrong. And so being, 4, 2, and 11 months, that I can start to teach them that, like, it's okay to feel that fear and be really scared, but you know what, we can be brave at the same time as feeling all that. And look at what you learned something new, and it's so exciting. And that like really sparks some confidence, and they walk a little taller that after they're done, and
Yeah.
so seeing that, dance did that for me, but now seeing that just in 1 week of lessons where they've never had any type of coaching yet
Mhm.
in that way, one-on-one for
Yeah.
themselves.
Well, I think for
Um,
you, what I'm hearing is the two piece. It's that idea of having someone that believes in you sometimes more than you believe in yourself, right? And I think you've had that in more than one time in your life. And if you don't have that right support, finding the right type, there not everyone is for everyone. And then that idea of even as children and adults, we can do things that our brain is trying to convince us we can't do, and to learn how to do them does not require more than 10 minutes a day.
yes, it's so fascinating, and how Justin and I had this conversation recently that um, we tend to cap other people's or even our children's potential.
For
But
sure.
it's like to see an 11-month-old learning how to swim and float. Like in our heads, we think, no, no, they can't learn that. They can't even understand, but they can, and their bodies can learn. And
Mhm.
so, how many times do we do that? Do we cap other kids, our kids, or other people's potential because we think our brains think they can't or
Mhm.
shouldn't? And holy moly, what is possible
Yeah.
is what's really profound and so exciting to see.
I mean,
And
100%. We and so many times we cap ourselves because either we haven't done it before and no one close to us, we haven't seen anyone else do it before, which
Mhm.
means it must not be possible.
Right. And so now this makes me think of going into our businesses. So for anybody that doesn't know, Jen and I, we run our businesses, we work together, and we are health coaches, but we are in network marketing, and we have both grown to the top 2% of our company. And, it's a lot of hard work, but it's also a lot of fun work and building community and meeting some awesome people along the way. And it's been 5.5 years for me, or right? Or no,
Yeah.
6.5 years for me, because
Six
you
and a
just
half.
hit
Yeah.
7, right? And
Yeah.
she just hit 7. So having gone along this journey, and now I think of all the journey of where I was getting to the top part of our company, and growing a team, and how much I doubted myself, and how much of those thoughts of like, I can't do this, and having Jen and also our combined mentor, Leslie, who she is an amazing voice, and she's like someone who will light your fire, you know? And Jen was always right there with her. So I think of Jen and Leslie together as my coaches, as helping me. And Jen is somebody who's known me my whole life, but I could still trust her in the way of like, well, she's doing it ahead of me. Like if she can do it, we came from the same town, like I could do it too, and
Yeah.
doing it together, and having all these other voices that believe in you to do something that even if you don't believe you can do it, like you ride on their coattails of one, their success, but two, like their belief in you. So if you're somebody who's struggling with the next version of yourself, or the next step that you want to, start your own company, or you want to even just get started in fitness for yourself, or whatever it is, something brand new that you've never
Mhm.
done before,
Yeah.
and you're just not believing in yourself, just find somebody first before you speak about it. Speak to somebody that you know is going to be that encouraging person. Do not go seek out from somebody who you know is probably going to, especially the first time you talk about it. Don't go to somebody that's going to just be like, well, that's probably not likely, because it's going to blow out the wind. Blow up. I'm trying to say blow the
The
wind out of
wind
your
from
sails.
your sails. It will it will
You guys know what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
And that's not going to help you. So look for the right people. And if you need someone, Jen and I love those kind of conversations to absolutely, support you, encourage you. I like to say hype person, but it's way more than hype, because
Yeah.
it's true, like support. Like, okay, let's also figure out how to make it happen,
Yeah.
and wanting to encourage, because that can be, I mean, thinking of moments in my life, like, again, having that support has changed the trajectory of my life. And then I think of other conversations I've had, of ideas maybe I've had, that a person like totally shot it down, and now I look back and I'm like, I never actually did do that thing either, because I was the impressionable person that was like, oh man, it's really not a good idea, and let it go,
Yeah.
because I talked to the wrong person about it, which is
Yeah.
terrible, and on me, of course it's
Yeah.
on me for not going for it. But that if you're really in a vulnerable state with starting something new, talk to the right person, because I think that can make such a difference.
I mean, I think you're extremely correct. because so many times when people are starting something new, right, they want other people's opinions. They want somebody to co-sign that they're doing the right thing. And at that point in time, we truly need to stop seeking the validation of people that are doing less than us, and they've been too afraid to try anything new. Don't ask those people for their opinion
Mhm.
because they are the naysayers. They don't have the belief in themselves, so they're definitely not going to have the belief in you. And we're looking for validation or co-signing from them, and we already know they're not. So sometimes we're looking for an out. Well, they told me that I'm not able to do it. So, you know what? I was right. I probably shouldn't try. I shouldn't try that new network marketing business because everybody knows about, they think they know everything, or I shouldn't try that. I shouldn't open that new restaurant or whatever it is, or I shouldn't have kids because, this other person I know hates her kids. Like there's so many different things. Stop seeking the validation of people that are doing less than you, or they're doing what you're doing and they're not doing it great. So, for you guys to understand how Christy and I have both got to this point, she had mentioned that we both are owners of our own network marketing business. And so I would say, so it was 2017. So Christy and I had been friends all through, adolescence. And then we graduated high school and we went our separate ways. Not, hey, we're done being friends. We're just in different places in our lives. And we both experienced, I think, a lot more than the average bear, maybe, in living in different states, traveling different places. And what's funny is the people that are meant to be in your life always come back in one way or the other. And I remember, like she said, she had joined me about 6 or 7 months into my business. I said yes to my business on March 30th, 2017. And at the time, I was working in retail corporate. And the woman that she mentioned is Leslie Humphrey. We do have a podcast with her, and I highly recommend those 2 episodes. Go back and listen to those. And, she was encouraging me to share what I had, my business, with people that I knew. And it's probably the biggest cliche. And I'm sure some of you listening have probably made fun of someone doing network marketing for it. But yes, I did reach out to a friend from high school. And the reason I did is because I knew, based on my experiences, that Christy would always be open to having a conversation with me. She was that bright light, right? Even if she told me like your psycho kick rocks, I at least knew she was going to be open to the conversation. And I remember, I don't know if I shared this with you, Chrissy, I was working corporate retail and I had to do a store visit. So it was on the drive in between my corporate office and this store visit. And I was in the parking garage of the mall. And this is the only time that she had available. And I was on the phone with her and sharing what I did. And she was open to it. She didn't say yes right away. For those that are in network marketing, by the way, it took a good 4 weeks for her to say yes and multiple conversations because she was doing her research, right? She was vetting the opportunity. And I remember she joined me like the last week of like Christmas week. Truly, it was Christmas week. And I just remember leaving that conversation that regardless of if she joined me or not, that I had rekindled a friendship that had, just taken a pause. I think so many times in life we're like, well, this person didn't reach out as much as I reached out to them, and da 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 da. And, we kind of check each other, or I'm trying to think of the right word. It's like, well, you didn't input as much as I do, so you don't care about the relationship, when we should be able to put things down, experience what we have going on, and we can pick it up like no time has actually ever passed. And I thought that was great about you. And I share that story to say we started together in that network marketing business in December of 2017. And she did mention we made it to the top 2% of the company. And I have to congratulate her again that she did that while also navigating becoming a new mom. So she was starting a new business. She had recently been married, trying to figure out living in a different place, right? And made one of the biggest decisions of her life is to procreate tiny humans, which on its own is its own job. So multitasking and seeing her do that and seeing a new version of her emerge as a mother, which is something I kind of always knew she would be great at. She even, if you were listening, you heard the different tone in her voice when she was talking the way she was talking to her kids automatically. And she's never talking down to people, she's encouraging people. So that part of your story has been very beautiful to watch. And because in the same amount of time that you had a network marketing business, you've had 3 kids.
Yeah, and that's what we love to share with people is that you do this and other parts of your life. It's not one or the other.
Mhm.
And what Jen didn't know is that she reached out to me in a point in my life where I was like, okay, I want to have a family, but I'm, on the end zone of performing, like feeling like I'm ready to have a family and I'm tired of bartending, and personal training and fitness is great, but it's just not my full-time passion. So I was looking for more, and I was looking for ways to make more money, and Jen had no idea. And she happened to reach out to me at a time where I was like, I trust her, like I'll hear what she has to say. But yes, I remember being super busy. And I remember also being like, I keep meaning to call you back, but let's chat like next Tuesday at like 4 o'clock, whatever it was. But something totally random because I was just like, I just don't even have a minute because I'm working like 4 jobs and like trying to, you know, spend some time with my new husband and like
Just a little bit.
we're recently married, like all these things. It was so hard, but it was also so hard to take a leap like that. Like it was really scary, and a lot of people telling me not to, and being like, but I feel like I should try,
Yeah.
because it has to do with health, and I love that idea of helping
Mhm.
people get healthy. So I jumped in, and it was terrifying. But it's been quite a journey to be able to go along with it. Yeah, with raising now, having 3 kids, and going along it with and us having babies at the same time. Like it's been really special, and being able to help other moms in that way too. That now we can experience it from this place as moms, and being able to help other moms and okay, what can we do to feel better, feel a little bit more energy, focus on ourselves for a moment through the day, which
Yeah.
is so hard to do. So I love that. I feel like my journey has kind of led me towards working with a lot of young moms,
Yeah.
and I think I love that part too, because it's been something I can relate to, that I never, we never feel qualified enough for things. So you think
Mhm.
like, well, talking to people about being a mom, but I'm like, but that's how you become qualified. Like I am a mom.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Period.
I
The
am now
end.
qualified.
Exactly. Well, and I think what I have seen from being one of your coaches and just your story in general, and I think a lot of people may be listening and they need that reminder of if there's something you've been putting off starting because life is too busy, life does not stop lifing, right? We either go into the kid part of our life, or maybe we don't have kids, but now we're taking care of parents that are aging, or other people that are important to our lives, or people like there's so many different things. Like people get laid off, people move states. There's so many things. And I do believe many of them are excuses to let us off the hooks of chasing for our dreams, because it's easier to say, well, I didn't do it because this was happening. And your story, not once, not twice, but 3 times your life had changed and still is changing. And you could have said, hey, you know what, I'm not even going to start this, or I'm going to quit while I'm halfway there, because life is getting hard. And I think life is definitely morphing now, and this business has allowed you to look at other things that you've been afraid of doing. And you might still be on the ledge, you haven't taken that full leap, but knowing I've done something in the past that was really scary and I succeeded, and I'm sure there's things, hey, I've tried something that was really scary and I failed, but I didn't die. So I know I can still try it whether or not it's going to come out the way that I thought it would.
100%. And I just think of, you know, I think of network marketing as something that I just didn't think. I had all the reservations around it and all the things we've all heard the horror stories of how it's been done wrong.
Mhm.
So it's been such a delight to
Delight.
to find out the truth in it, and that it can be led from a place of um a place of truth, that it doesn't have to be all that negative of what it's been in the past and the way it's done wrong in the past. Like it can be a beautiful thing for yourself, for your business, I mean for your family is what I want to say, for yourself, for your family, for growth. Holy moly, like the growth, I think seeing you too emerge as the leader, that like I always knew you were a leader even in middle school, but like seeing how you lead people, because it's still a journey that we have to learn how to lead people in a way that how we can relate to all kinds of personalities, and seeing the people we've coached and seeing them become leaders has been unbelievable. I feel like that's, what I've taken away so much in these 6.5 years. I can't believe I'm saying 6.5 years. Seeing that and like finding a community of people that are that same way, and that we want
Mhm.
to debunk truths, or falsehoods, I should say, of things that aren't true, because people just don't know, and when it comes to the base of it, is that we all just want to help others, and we want to help other people succeed. We want to help people feel good, and to have found something that's based in that has been so, so, so rewarding, and way more of a reward than I ever would have expected.
Yeah. No, and I love that, and I feel very much the same way, and I think that journey is what has brought us here to this podcast, and we had mentioned probably, for a long time, and we had to take that leap. I think I might have pushed us into it, really not even expecting it was gonna happen, and we started this literally the last week of December of 2022, so I think our first podcast came out in January of 2023, and I would love for you to share with people why you wanted to have these kind of conversations with me and have this available to people. Why'd you want to start Happy, Healthy, and Skeptical with me?
Good question, Jen, because yes, I remember being like, I really want to do a podcast, and I was kind of just sitting on it, and then you were like, let's do it. Like, let's do it for the beginning of January. And I was like, okay, let's just do it. So you were good in that regard, but I knew that I love that you and I have, while we're similar in so many ways with wanting to encourage people and support people and help people through health, I feel like our personalities are very different. And if you've listened to any of our podcasts, you see that we just have different ways of seeing things and talking about things, which I think that is fun. And I thought that would be a cool way to talk about topics, but to just keep trying to reach more people. And that's what this is about. I mean, anybody who has ever done a podcast, it's not for the monetary value of it. It's because, we're trying to reach more people with stuff that we've learned.
Yeah.
And so I felt like doing a podcast was a way that we could talk about what we want to talk about, and without having somebody telling us, no, 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 you can't do this, you can't do that. It's just, we can develop it how we'd like, and we can talk about the things we'd like, but we have a way to reach more people. And so if you've been following us, we're on Instagram, we're on social media, but now we just started a page on YouTube. So you can find us on YouTube, Happy, Healthy, and Skeptical. And I think that's just another way to reach more people. And that's the ultimate goal, is to see who we can reach. And I love when people message and, oh, I listened to this episode and I got this out of it. Like, that is why we do this. And it's like this pure excitement and like, oh yeah, 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 this is why we're doing what we're doing, you know? And so I'd love to ask, like, since we're in this conversation, what did you think about as we were getting going with this podcast?
Well, I think before I share my reasons, you're correct in that idea of most of us just want to feel like we belong. And if you can relate to anything we're saying, then we feel successful. I think that's the biggest thing. And I think it came from a place of every time, if you've been listening, we don't live in the same place. We now live very far away from each other. Christy's down in Florida and I'm up here. But every time we got the opportunity, especially with our business, to travel together, we ended up in these conversations. And halfway through, we'd be like, this would be a really great podcast. And we kept kind of holding off, and I sometimes make those quick shotgun decisions. I was like, "Hey, I found a platform, it's free, let's go." Didn't do research. We didn't have any, fancy photos, nothing like that, right? There was no prep. It was just have felt the need to share the things that we say because even when we're alone, like in a cafe or something like that, we're like, this is something I wish more people could listen to, or I know more people than just the two of us feel this way. And my goal is always to make sure that people know they're not alone and they're not the only one that has felt this way or had this struggle or had this challenge, and how I may have overcome it may inspire them sometimes to just keep going, just keep trying, or to find their people. Like you said at the very beginning of this conversation, you became who you were because you had the right coach for you, the right mentor for you. And then in our business, we succeeded because we had the right mentor. And you have to find your people. And if you can find that with the two of us or through the two of us, and we can be the gateway, that's really where it all came from. I don't want people to feel alone.
That's so beautifully said. I think that's perfect. And it's so you can tell that that's so true coming from you, that that's your truth. And I love that you're saying that where this conversation led to that about mentorship and having a great leader with you and somebody who
Mhm.
can encourage you, because what's awesome about this podcast is we do it very conversational, that we never really know where it's going to go. And so this one, that we're kind of interviewing each other for these 2 episodes, and that's where the conversation went to, is that that's the message we want to share with people,
Yep.
because it is so important, and it can literally change the trajectory of your life, of somebody else's life. And just reminding you that a kind word, a kind support, if you think somebody has excelled at something, or you think they need to hear something, like, please say it, don't hold it in, because it literally can change. And I just keep thinking of children, it can change a child's life to have, maybe they don't have those kind of words at home and you don't know that, and maybe you don't know them well, maybe you just saw something in someone. It doesn't even have to be a kid, but anyone. Just say the thing that you thought of, because you thought of it for a reason. So don't be shy, and just say what comes to your heart, because it can 100% make a difference.
So, Christy, as we wrap this up, if people want to get in touch with you personally, how can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Christie P. Be well, live free. And there's a lot of underscores. I'd love to connect. And as always, we want to connect with you guys on our social media at Happy Healthy Skeptical. And now we're on YouTube too, making moves. So
Yes,
we would love to have a
exactly.
conversation.
Absolutely. Follow us, and we'll see you next time.